back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. We haven't even, it's been a busy week, Summers. We haven't even talked about the fact that Taylor Swift has a new album out.
No, we have not. Or her new concert movie.
Yeah.
I've heard mixed reviews on that one.
We'll get to Swiftie news maybe a little bit later on this week here. But probably more important news-wise, not sure fun-wise, but news-wise, always great to have our friends at Wisconsin Watch here, a great online publication. You can find all of the work at Wisconsin, spelled out wisconsinwatch.org. And joining us here, someone who has a little Taylor on her playlist, her Spotify playlist, yes. Brittany Carloni, the new state government and politics reporter at Wisconsin Watch. Brittany, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So you're a Swiftie.
Yes, not as intense as some of my friends are. I have a friend who's getting married at the end of October, and the album on Friday was like the best thing that's happened to her probably until she gets married. And then
and you know there's going to be Taylor Swift music at the reception, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It would be a surprise if it wasn't.
Well, a pleasure to have you here. Before we get into this great story, important story, as we do with everyone new here on the show, tell us a little bit about yourself, Brittany, where you grew up and how you got into the journalism field.
Yeah, so I'm originally from the Milwaukee area. My parents still live in Greendale, went to Greendale High School, suburban growing up for me. I went to Marquette for journalism school, had some really wonderful opportunities, specifically with the Milwaukee Neighborhood News Service and the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And I thought I was going to be in Milwaukee my entire life, but an opportunity came up to go work in Florida once I graduated.
Wow.
And so I spent about 4.5 years at the Naples Daily News in Southwest Florida. It's where I really kind of cut my teeth in local government reporting. But the pandemic hit and I said, I don't want to be near the beach anymore. I need to see the trees change colors. And then I moved to Indiana and spent the last 4.5 years at the Indianapolis Star covering local, state, and federal government there. And then I said, hey, I don't want to be in Indiana anymore. And this opportunity at Wisconsin Watch came up and I was like, this is my chance to come home and to really do work that can help people in the state that is my home and that I grew up in. So
that's
here
awesome.
I am.
That's fantastic. Indianapolis Star, great publication, did a lot of great work over the years, and a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
But for about 8 months, I lived on Marco Island and worked in Naples.
Are you serious?
That's one of my favorite places.
Yes, we'll have to talk more
You ever
about
go to the Snook Inn on Marco?
No,
for lunch?
but there are so many people who that's just a
the
regular
Snook Inn. If you're ever down in Marco Island, go to the Snook Inn. All right. Well, as they say, that's not why you're called.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's great that you have this opportunity to come home. Great that I always think it's good when people have gone away and done some things, and it gives you a different perspective on your hometown, your home state. You bring a different lens, I think, to it. So I think that's fantastic as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I really think this is a chance for me to come home to do work that I'm excited about, the work that my colleagues have done at Wisconsin Watch, and only being a month in, I'm really excited about what I can do over at the Capitol. There's a lot for me to catch up on, and already starting to dive into things.
There's no want of news stories in the state capitol, right? We have this very important story. People can find it again at wisconsinwatch.org. Headline: Can Wisconsin's split government pass a bill to support homeless veterans? Governor Tony Evers says he supports a Republican bill that would restore funding for Wisconsin's veterans' homes that closed in September, but the bill's prospects in the Assembly remain unclear.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is such important reporting. Let's set it up a little bit. Tell us the background. And we're speaking with Brittany Carloni, the state government and political reporter at wisconsinwatch.org.
Mm-hmm.
What led us to this point? Why were these veterans facilities closed, and why wasn't this a part of the state budget, first of all?
So I want to make sure I credit, before we even get into this, one of the Wisconsin Watch interns over the summer, I believe she's still a student at Northwestern, wrote a very compelling, very great piece of journalism about the initial impacts of the money for these veterans homes not being included in the state budget agreement that was eventually signed by the governor. That is also on Wisconsin Watch's website, and it's linked in my story.
Oh,
So
look at
if
that.
people
Fantastic.
find it, it's linked in that story. She talked to veterans who spent time in these homes in Chippewa Falls and Green Bay that closed in September. And it's really, these homes provided resources for people who were really struggling, whether it was homelessness, recovery efforts for maybe like drug addictions and things like that. It's really helping these people who served our country and who have hit very vulnerable parts in their lives. But to go back to what's going on in the Capitol right now, Governor Evers, during the budget, his original budget proposal, he put about $1.9 million in his proposal to continue funding these homes because the costs to do so are really just escalating. And during the budget process, the Republican-led budget writing committee took that out. And that final agreement didn't include those funds. And so the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs had went forward with closing the homes in Green Bay and Chippewa Falls because that money to make sure those homes continued to be funded wasn't there. So I believe it was mid-September that both Green Bay and Chippewa Falls, the last veterans, left those homes. But this bill that's currently going through the legislative process, Senator Andre Jacques, who's a Republican, and I believe he represented a district that's near Door County.
Correct. Yep.
He has a bill that has several pieces to it that would be helping veterans, including restoring that funding. But the question is, and it's still this political fight over what happened over the summer, is Governor Evers saying that this funding was there. We're going through this process, but this funding was there. We didn't have to do this. And Republicans are saying the same thing. And this bill actually did pass out of committee today, but the question is, does it get through the rest of the Senate? Does it get through the Assembly? And it should, an issue like veterans, like helping homeless veterans shouldn't be that political.
You would think that'd be a no-brainer, yeah. You would think that'd be a no-brainer. We're speaking with Brittany Carloni, the state government and political reporter at wisconsinwatch.org. You can find this and many other stories at wisconsinwatch.org. Reading the story, I think you laid out well in that too often, I think, to put it in layman's terms, it's just politics, right? Because, as you said, the governor had these monies in. Republicans consciously left it out in the Joint Finance Committee. Then the ball gets hit back on the other side of the political court. Governor Evers, as part of the negotiating process, acquiesced to saying, okay, in the name of getting a budget deal done, if this is what you guys want to do, then fine, I'll do it. And I'm putting it down in very simplistic terms, but fine, we'll do it. But this is your choice. And now the Republicans are coming back and saying, well, it wasn't in the budget. So and it just seems, to your point, do you see a path forward where people can lay down their political partisan arms on both sides and just say, to put it in Tony Evers speak, get the damn bill passed?
I mean, that's a great question. And me being new to the way the Wisconsin Capitol works, I'm very curious how that works here. In Indiana, it would maybe be one of those things where a Republican proposal, you don't hear anything from Democrats. You don't hear, like, just because Republicans control the entire state house there. But here, just the fact that Governor Evers said he would, a spokesperson for his office told me he would sign Senator Jacques' bill, and Jacques is a Republican. So,
and pretty conservative one.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, especially as this bill, if it goes through the Senate and it heads to the Assembly, it'll be really interesting to see what Republicans over there think about what needs to go forward, because this bill doesn't just have the housing aspects of it. There's a property tax credit for disabled veterans or their surviving spouses, and there's a requirement to fund a missing in action veterans program at the University of Wisconsin. So do people care about these other pieces? Are they worried about that? Does that affect how this bill goes forward? It's a really good question.
So the bill, you said, passed out of Senate committee today. So that's new reporting. That's great to pass on. So it included all those provisions, or just the one?
It included all those provisions.
All right. So that's good news. Let's focus on that for a second. A little bit of good news here. It passes out of a Senate committee. Do you know it was a bipartisan vote or?
It was a bipartisan vote.
All
Yep.
right, so
So
that's good.
it was the one vote against it was a Republican, and I don't believe he was concerned about the housing program. I think he was concerned about the property tax credits.
All right, so
Yeah.
at least we passed out of committee on a bipartisan
Mm-hmm.
bill. Any word, and maybe this is too soon to know, but I'll ask it.
Yeah.
Any sense of Senate Majority Leader Devin LeMahieu and President Mary Fliskowski, who don't always get along behind closed doors, from
Mm-hmm.
reporting I've heard,
Mm-hmm.
are they going to allow this bill to go to the full floor of the Senate, or is it too soon to know that?
So my understanding is there is a Senate floor session next Tuesday on the 14th, and I have yet to hear anything about a calendar out for that. So that's what I'm looking for is like,
Mm.
does this head to the Senate floor next week? And if that's the case, if it's scheduled for that, what will that look like?
And for those that might not be, and good gosh, I would not blame you for this, but for those that aren't as political nerds as I am, and that Brittany are, the way it happens, to your point, Brittany, in the state Senate, is that a bill comes out of committee. It is the executive. It's a very small group of people that decide what goes to the floor,
Exactly.
and it's essentially the majority leader, the assistant majority leader, and the president of the Senate. Those three people have to, and then there are two Democrats, the minority and the assistant minority leader,
Hmm.
on that committee. That's the committee that decides what goes to the floor of the state Senate. And I've never known a time when it took one Democratic vote to get something to the floor of the Senate,
Yeah.
or vice versa. It's always the majority party, and at the end of the day, it's usually just the majority leader and or the Senate. It's
Hmm.
going to be very interesting now that we know that there's bad political blood between LeMahieu and Vliskowski. What's holding this up? So I know you're a
Hmm.
real journalist. I'm just a talk show host. I would encourage our listening audience, if this is important to you, call your state senator, or call your state senator. And then, you know what? I don't often say this, but call the majority leader and the president's office as well, and tell them to schedule this bill, because, Brittany, I feel like this is going to be a public pressure thing to get this on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I really love about political journalism and writing about what happens in government offices, because somebody out across the state, they might know who their state senator is, they might know who their state representative is, but having a better understanding of like who these other players are at the Capitol, like who does make the decisions about what gets to the floor, who does decide maybe what gets a committee hearing. Like there are some people in that building who may be decision makers about issues that somebody out in Wisconsin cares about, and it would be I like making sure that people know what who those players are and what they do and what they can do or not do when it comes to issues across the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got time to stick around one more segment here.
Sure,
All
absolutely.
right, very good. Now we're gonna take a little, do a little business, as they say. When we come back, more with Brittany Carloni, the state government and political reporter at WisconsinWatch.org. What else is happening a block from where we sit right now in terms of bills that may get passed here in the fall session? And well, since we talked political things as well, what are you hearing about the governor's race? You got Josh Call
Ooh, yes.
is out. He's going to run for his attorney general seat, and now looks like Mandela Barnes is hinting he might be in. We'll discuss all that more with Brittany Carloni from Wisconsin Watch on the other side. It's the Allbaugh Show for a Tuesday on the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. 8 minutes now before the hour of 3 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC or CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations you listen to. Weather update. Mike Clemens, great sports reporter, with a sports update in hour 2 of the show, including what's worse. It's National Taco Day. Hard shell or soft shell? That is the impending question coming up at hour 2, along with some more real news as well. Right now, we're being joined at the desk here live in studio at the world headquarters in Madison by the brand new sports I got sports in my mind.
Yeah.
Are you a Brewers fan?
Oh, absolutely.
What, did you watch the game last night?
I didn't end up watching the game last night, but I really enjoyed. There's this one photo on the Brewers Instagram,
Yeah.
of like all of the lights, and I think like the closing pitcher coming out. The name
Great.
escapes me at
Yeah,
this point.
Uribe.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Fantastic.
Really cool photo.
Brittany Carloni, who is the new state government and politics reporter at WisconsinWatch.org. That's Wisconsin spelled out watch.org. Talking about her reporting on this bill, Senate Bill 411. Senate Bill 411. I can't speak for Brittany, but I would encourage you to call your legislator and tell them to, particularly your state senator, and get this bill on the Senate floor because it would fix what I think is a travesty, which is putting our Wisconsin veterans, who I think are heroes, who are the most vulnerable, and this ridiculous politics in the state budget close these facilities for the unhoused for veterans. And this, Brittany, would at least go a good way to helping reopen those facilities, correct?
Yes. So if this bill does pass, the Wisconsin Department of Veterans Affairs, they have to do some grant and operating agreement renegotiations, but the Green Bay site, from my understanding in speaking with folks over there, that could reopen within a couple of months. It would take more time for the Chippewa Falls site, but the Department of Veterans Affairs is very insistent that they need that legislative okay for that to go forward.
All right. Well, call. This is coming from Todd, not Brittany, but call your state senator. Tell them to get off the schneid, as they say. Quit horsing around. As Pat Murphy say, enough of this horse crap. Help out our veterans. Get this bill passed. SB 411. Great reporting, Brittany. All right, the time we have left here, let's ask you this question because we teased it here. Lots of movement, or at least some movement, on the Wisconsin governor's race today on the Democratic side. Attorney General Josh Kaul saying he's not going to run for governor. Instead, he'll run for re-election as attorney general. And now, great reporter Molly Beck tweeting out here just moments ago from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Molly Beck says, former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes tells her, quote, I'm strongly considering entering the race for governor. I've been blown away by the number of people across the state who have reached out and asked me to run, and I will have more to say very soon, unquote. That's from Molly Beck at the Journal-Sentinel. Brittany Carloni, you're reporting. What are you hearing? What's kind of the rumor mill right now in terms of, is Barnes going to get in, or what's your outlook on this on today's news?
So there was a poll that I believe was published on Sunday that even though Mandela Barnes isn't in the race yet, I believe it was a nonpartisan poll that came from Platform Communications. Yeah, I think that's where
it was from Platform.
Yes, but they put him as a front runner, which
they did. They go ahead.
That was that, and obviously like there's probably more details in that poll
Right.
at this point, but that. I mean, if you're Mandela Barnes and you see things like that, and at this point, with not having an incumbent in the race, it's kind of a fight to see who's going to win that name recognition at this point. And having been in state office before, I mean, Sarah Rodriguez has that name recognition at this point. I personally, from my reporting experiences, name recognition is a big thing. So
sure. No, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah.
I think former Lieutenant Governor Barnes certainly has the name ID on the Democratic side. And just this is a weird thing in the back of my head, just because I know my former party, the Republican Party, which I left in 2011. Platform Communications is run and either wholly or partly owned by a guy named Keith Jilks, who used to be Scott Walker's chief of staff. So I take the polling over there at Platform with a little grain of salt.
It's good to take all polling with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Unless it's the Charles Franklin Marquette Law School poll, your alma mater, which is to me the gold standard of polls.
And I believe the Marquette poll will be, the last time I talked to Charles, I think there's one coming out at the end of October. So that's definitely one I'm watching for.
Me too.
Yeah.
What have I not asked you so far, Brittany Carloni, that you want to share with people, either about yourself or Wisconsin Watch, or stories you guys are working on?
I mean, I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to work with the team over there. One of the things that I would encourage people to subscribe to, Wisconsin Watch has 3 free weekly newsletters. The one I am obviously biased toward is Forward, which is our Monday politics newsletter, more politics themed work in there, things that I'm doing, things that my teammates are doing, like Tom Kircher with fact briefs that we
love Tom's fact
yes,
briefs.
yes. So we relaunched Forward on Monday, and that should be in inboxes every Monday afternoon around or late morning, early afternoon. And so I would encourage people to subscribe there. That way you can read more of the work that I'll be doing from the Capitol and the work that my colleagues are doing. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here, and I look forward to coming back and talking about more.
I can't wait. You always have a welcome microphone and a seat at this desk, and I'm sure your boss Matt DeFore is listening in, and so Matt, I'll be excited to tell you that Brittany and I are going to be doing a joint WisconsinWatch.org and Civic Media Political Roundtable at the Snook on Marco Island in February. So that'll be great.
Perfect weather.
There's no better time to go to the Snook at Marco than February. Appreciate it. Brittany Carloni of WisconsinWatch.org. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much.